Dubro Suspicion Files.
All right, today we are tackling a big one. We're going to peel back the layers of the mystery that basically created the whole Bermuda Triangle legend. I'm talking, of course, about Flight 19.
So picture this, December 5th, 1945. The war is over, and you'd think things would be calming down. But at the Naval Air Station in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, it was business as usual. Just another day, another routine training flight.
5 of these planes, U.S. Navy torpedo bombers, took off. Their call sign was Flight 19. And their mission? It sounded so simple, right? Navigation problem number 1, just a standard practice run.
But by the time the sun set, 27 men would be gone. Think about that. Not just the original flight crew, but the rescue teams sent after them too. 27 lives.
And when I say gone, I mean gone. Vanished. No wreckage, no bodies, not a single trace. It was like they were just erased from the sky. And that single event, it lit the fuse on a mystery that we're still talking about today.
So, this is where it all starts. The very foundation of the Bermuda Triangle legend. But what if it's not a legend? What if it's just a tragic and completely explainable accident? To find out, we've got to ignore all the hype and go straight to the source. The official reports, the radio logs. You ready? Okay, let's dive in.
First up, we've got to get to know the people and the planes involved. Because the myth, it paints this picture of perfect pilots and perfect machines on a perfect day. But the reality? Well, it's a whole lot messier and honestly, a lot more human.
Okay, let's talk about the man in charge, Lieutenant Charles Taylor. The legend says he was this Top Gun ace pilot, right? The kind of guy who can never ever get lost. But the official Navy records, they tell a very, very different story.
And when you dig into those records, a really clear pattern emerges. Look, Taylor was a good pilot, no doubt. 2,500 flight hours, combat experience. But he had this one major blind spot. He'd gotten lost and had to ditch his plane over water twice before. Plus, he just transferred from Miami, so his internal GPS was set for the Florida Keys, not the Bahamas where they were actually flying. And get this, on the day of the flight, he showed up late and actually asked to sit this one out. They said no.
The other part of the legend is always the weather, right? A beautiful, calm, crystal clear day. Well, that's just not true. The actual weather reports for that day paint a picture of a nasty, rapidly worsening storm. We're talking gale force winds and rough seas. This was absolutely not a walk in the park.
And here's a detail that sounds small but is actually huge. You see this? 0. That's how many clocks were on the instrument panel of these planes. 0. The pilots had to use their own wristwatches to figure out where they were. It's called dead reckoning. Time plus speed equals distance. Now imagine trying to do that in a storm, under incredible stress. One little mistake, and you're done.
Okay, so we've got a pilot who's prone to getting lost, terrible weather, and no clocks on the planes. Let's look at how all these little things stacked up into a total disaster based on the actual radio transmissions from their final hours.
So it all starts to go wrong after their bombing run. They get blown off course, and Taylor looks down, and he doesn't see the Bahamas. His brain tells him he's in the Florida Keys. This is the critical mistake. He thinks he's overshot Florida and is now in the Gulf of Mexico. So what does he do? He makes the fatal call to fly east, straight out into the open Atlantic, right into the teeth of that storm.
And the really heartbreaking part? The student pilots knew he was wrong. You can hear the panic in the radio chatter. They're basically pleading, if we just fly west, we'll get home. But, military discipline is what it is. The chain of command held, and they followed their leader to the very end.
But wait, what about the rescue plane? The legend says it just vanished too, right? Poof, gone. Well, the real story there isn't supernatural at all. It's explosive.
The plane they sent out was a PBM Mariner, and these things had a nickname, not a good one. They called it the flying gas tank. Why? Because a design flaw meant the whole body of the plane could fill up with explosive fuel vapors. A ticking time bomb, basically.
And that bomb went off. The rescue plane didn't just disappear, it blew up. We know this because at the exact moment it vanished from radar, the crew of a nearby ship, the SS Gaines Mills, saw a massive explosion in the sky. This wasn't a mystery. It was a tragic and sadly predictable accident.
So if all of this was known, the pilot error, the explosion, how in the world did this become a paranormal legend? Well, it's a story of paperwork, a mother's love, and good old-fashioned sensationalism.
Okay, check this out. The Navy's first report was clear. They blamed Lieutenant Taylor, but his mother fought back. She said, "You have no wreckage. You can't prove it was an equipment failure." So the Navy, trying to be compassionate, did something that changed everything. They amended the report to say the cause was unknown. And that little phrase, causes or reasons unknown, that's where the whole myth began.
Years later, writers looking for a sensational story found that official report, and that little seed of cause unknown was all they needed. A guy named Charles Berlitz, in his mega bestseller, The Bermuda Triangle, just made stuff up, including this wild quote he claimed came from L.T. Taylor.
Let me be absolutely 100% clear on this. That quote is fake. It's a complete fabrication. It appears in exactly 0 official Navy documents. It was invented, plain and simple, to sell books and create a spooky story.
So once you strip away all the fiction, what are we left with? Not a spooky mystery. We're left with a tragic and very human story.
And this really just lays it all out, doesn't it? The difference between the legend we've all heard and the documented reality. Perfect weather? No, it was a storm. An ace pilot? No, an experienced one with a known weakness. A mysterious disappearance? No, they flew until they ran out of gas. Every single part of the myth falls apart when you look at the facts.
So the real mystery here isn't what happened to those 27 men. We know what happened. The real mystery is how their tragic story of human error got twisted into this global paranormal legend. And maybe, just maybe, why we wanted to believe in the monster in the ocean instead of the much scarier reality of a simple, fatal mistake. Thanks for digging into this with me.